Sometimes things happen. So does anybody see us on?
We are live. I
Yes,
got
we
us.
are.
We're live on Facebook.
all right. Yay, yay, yay.
Right.
All right, well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to High5 Live. And yeah, for those of you that know us well, you know we love punctuality and being on time. And circumstances happen. So I am always looking for the lesson and the opportunity to practice what we believe and teach here at High5. And that is, you know what? Stuff happens. And I then have a choice of either getting upset and frustrated or whatever that is. But you know what? That's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit anybody else. So why do it? If there's anybody out there that doesn't know me, my name is Barb Moses, and I am the CEO of High5 Leadership, and we are joined here by our High5 team, or those that were available tonight, and you will get to know and hear from them as we move forward. And most importantly, though, is you, because you are the ones that make this fun for us, and we just love to get on and talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so we would love for you to put in the chat tonight whatever it is that is of interest to you, that you think that would be beneficial to you, that we can talk about. Now, we did do something different as we launched this for 2020, and that is we put out a survey, or we have a link that Michelle will continue to put out every month as we prepare for our High5 Lives, and that is, do you have a question? And those questions are actually anonymous. You could certainly type your name in there if you wanted us to know. And that way, if there's something that you really want us to dive into, let us know in advance, and we're going to make sure that we have an answer for you. And thank you, because we had somebody that actually put out a topic for us tonight. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into that, and then we'll get to whatever else it is that you want to talk about. And wait, there's more. We have a special guest sighting in San Diego tonight. So we'll see who that is. That happens to be in my living room at this moment, and we'll reveal that in a little bit. So Chad, will you tell us what our question was?
Yes, our question that came in was, what is your method for setting goals?
Method for setting goals. And the first thing that I'm going to say is, when we talk about this tonight, we will interchangeably use the word goals and the word outcomes, because here at High5 Leadership, what we usually talk about are setting outcomes. And it, for me anyway, everybody can chime in on their own, it means the same thing. So setting those outcomes. And I'm going to turn it over to who would like to answer that question first.
I'll go first.
Awesome.
And agreed. So for me, goals and outcomes are the same thing. I also tend to use outcomes just because that's our High5 language. So that's likely what I'll keep saying here. And I do it in a couple of different ways. So I always have outcomes for the year that I'm setting, so big picture things, and those are written down. I have other outcomes that are more long-term, and I don't necessarily always have them written down, and a lot of times they're floating around in my head, in my consciousness, and my yearly outcomes are attached to those. And then every month I set outcomes for that month that are tied in, that are mostly tied into the yearly outcomes, and then sometimes things just show up that I'm focused on for that month as well. And then I usually will set outcomes every day tied to my monthly outcomes. So I am a firm believer in having those outcomes, because now I've got something that I'm focused on for my day, my month, my year, and that's what I'm continually tracking for. So I've actually got my yearly outcomes are right up on my wall in front of me right here. I actually have, and so Ish and I, my partner, we have outcomes for our own personal outcomes, and we came up with shared outcomes together for the year as well. So and then that's what we're focused on for the year as a unit, and then what we're focused on individually as well.
Cool. I want to come back a little bit later and talk about shared outcomes.
Cool.
Because I think that is so critical, and I think it's a missing piece in a lot of areas, because it's not just about shared outcomes necessarily with a partner. It can be shared outcomes with your team at work. It can be shared outcomes with your friends. It can be shared outcomes with a lot of people, and we leave so much of that unspoken. So anyway.
I'll be really happy to talk about how that's really helped us out a lot. So I've got our yearly, and I have both our shared, mine, our yearly outcomes right there, my monthly outcomes right there. And then my monthly outcomes are also in my handy dandy High5 leadership journal, which is what I use every day. My
shameless plug outcomes. Right there.
Shameless plug. It happens to be available on our website for purchase right now for the low price of $20. And this is what I use every day for. So it's got my 30-day outcomes, my story. So just visualizing what that's going to look like when I have achieved all those outcomes, and then what am I focused on every single day. And this has made a huge difference. When I do this consistently, I'm way more focused during the day.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Who would like to add to that or share what they do?
Being the leaders that we are, I'll go. So for me, I do a lot of calendar. Like I've got Google Calendar, I've got the application, so I get notifications. And for me, my big thing is spending time working on the outcomes that I want. So even if it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm still working towards those outcomes. And so I break them down like Chad does, from like the monthly to the larger into smaller sections, going, okay, this is what I want to attain first. So I have my large outcome, but my smaller steps, my journey to get there, so that I'm not getting discouraged as I'm going towards this outcome, going, you know what, I'm here and I want to be here. I'm not making progress.
Yeah. Not getting, yeah, I love that, Adam, not getting overwhelmed or discouraged. And so, because so often, and I've certainly had this, I've set a big outcome, and because I haven't broken it down into something that's manageable, I don't do it. Yeah, beautiful.
That's a good segue, I think, into a conversation that I had with one of my coaching clients earlier today about the difference between a goal or an outcome and your aim. Right. So the question that I always like to ask is, what's the bigger goal? What's the bigger outcome? Right. What are you aiming at? And so, you can have a really big, hairy, audacious goal that might even be a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year goal. And then the question is kind of like what Chad was talking about, right? So taking that bigger goal and breaking it down into more manageable steps. So I know what my 1-year goal is. So where do I want to be 12 months from now? What am I aiming for at the end of the year? And then I can back into if that's where I want to be at the end of the year, then what's my 6-month outcome? And then what's my 30-day outcome? And then what's my daily outcome? So now I know what I'm shooting for. A lot of people I find will pick goals or outcomes and they don't really know what it's leading them to. And it doesn't matter what the time frame is, but because they don't ultimately know what it's leading them to, it gets kind of empty, because when they get there, it's like, well, now what? So we always want to have not only the goal that we're tracking to, but what am I aiming at? And so your aim should always be out beyond the goal. And then as you get closer and closer to achieving what you're aiming at, you can always raise your aim. You can always increase it, because what I find in working with clients a lot is that we underestimate what we can really accomplish in our lives when we get focused. And so we put something out there like, well, I'd never be able to do X. And then they start doing the work, and now they're focused on it, and they're actually committed to it and doing the work. And holy smokes, now it gets close. It's like, well, I never thought I'd get here. So what else is possible? So then we want to raise that aim and push it further out and say, okay, great. What else is possible? So have both your goals slash outcomes and have a bigger aim that you're shooting for.
Yeah, I love that. You also brought up something that I was thinking about a lot today, and that we said we underestimate ourselves. Yeah. And so I have a question for all of you, which is, when you really need something done, do you give it to the person that's really busy, or do you give it to the person who has nothing to do? And why?
Okay, I'll answer. So I would give it to the person who's really busy, because the person who's really busy is going to, because they get a lot of stuff done, so they're going to get it done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it, Ronnie. So it was my life this morning is what it was, and so many things. And I had guests coming, so I wanted to get everything ready. And I was like, and it just always amazes me how much I can get done when I get focused, right? And in focus, light switch, in focus, and really getting stuff done. And when I really want to get something done, I'm going to give it to the person that's already doing a lot, because they're already in momentum. They're already, versus somebody who isn't. They have to like get that momentum going. And we think about or talk about outcomes and goals, right? So the more that we keep focused on those outcomes and we keep in momentum, the quicker we're going to get there. And we do underestimate ourselves. I've certainly underestimated myself in my life. And the question I always ask myself is, where could I be playing bigger? And there's a lot of places I could.
And it occurs to me as we're having this conversation that when I am really busy, I get a lot more stuff done, a ton more stuff done. So then maybe I better make myself real busy with the things I want to get done and all my outcomes, and I'm going to get more of them done because I'm going to be really efficient about it. So that was a good awareness.
Yeah, and then when it's time to take it easy, just be purposeful about be purposeful about getting your rest, be purposeful about having that moment to breathe. When we just go back into default in whatever way the wind blows, right? And then all of a sudden now I'm binge watching 7 seasons of Netflix, and all in a row in 3 days, whatever, right? And I'm not saying it's wrong to watch. I'm saying, what is not getting done when we're doing that because we just fell into a pattern of lack of momentum. So,
yeah.
And it really is just about, and you've all alluded to this or said it really is just about taking the first step. Because if you have a daunting outcome, and daunting is just for lack of a better word, that implies that it's hard and you may not be able to get to it. But if you have a big outcome in front of you, then to think about everything that has to be done and to plan everything that gets you there from the start, A, it's going to make you crazy. B, life is going to happen and it's not going to go according to plan, which is going to throw you completely off course and out of whack. And you're not, and my experience is that it causes me to shut down as opposed to reassessing and taking a different approach. But it really is just all you gotta do is take that first step, one step forward, whatever. My mom always used to say, one bite of the elephant at a time. And it really is just the example that I'll use, speaking of my mom, is when she died a few years ago, I have all her stuff in my garage, in my basement. And then Kevin moved here, actually before that, the year before, Kevin moved here and had all his stuff in the basement, in the garage. So now I got Kevin's stuff, mom's stuff, our stuff in the basement, in the garage. And it just piled up and piled up and piled up. And I would look at it and think, okay, got to clean out the garage, got to clean out the basement. And that was the big task. But oh my God, I wouldn't do it because I didn't even know where to start, because I didn't. And I talked about it. I have been talking about this for 3 years. Actually, I think I was ready to do about 2 years. But anyway, been talking about this for a while, and I would half-hearted start again. And finally, this November, I started in earnest, and it was one step. I cleaned out one box, which led to another box, And it's simple and not always easy.
Yeah.
You know, Chad also talked about a couple of things. So a combination of what you said, Michelle, and what Chad said. So why do we have our journal set up the way that we do? And why do we set up our outcomes the way that we do? So what I like to call our outcome formula is to state your outcome and then list the benefits. Why would you list benefits to get to that outcome? Because we all like to set outcomes and then, you know, it gets overwhelming, or it's cold outside, or whatever the circumstance is that makes us want to not take those steps, to take that action. And so the benefits are the things that motivate us to keep moving forward. And so that's what we check in with. And then the third step in our formula is to do what we call future pacing. It's a neuro-linguistic programming term that means put yourself out in the future and close your eyes and experience, put yourself in the state of actually achieving the outcome. So put yourself out 30 days or 6 months or a year and literally, I like to say, get into the virtual reality machine and see what it would look like and hear the sounds and feel the feelings of achieving that outcome. And when you do that, the energy that's created from that state is what goes out into the universe. And that's what then, if you're familiar with the law of attraction, that's what then begins to draw that stuff to you. It's the same thing like creating a vision board. I know Chad spent some time creating a vision board recently. It's the same idea. Putting those thoughts out there and that energy out into the universe will actually attract it to you. So that's the third step. And then the last step is what Michelle was talking about, and that's what is the first step. It's not about what are all the things I need to do to eat the whole elephant. It's in order to get to that outcome, what's the first thing that I can do that will lead me in that direction? So that's why we have it set up that way in our journal. That's why we talk about it that way in all of our classes. And they've also done studies that talk about the importance of writing down your goals. So it's one thing to just think it into existence, but there's something special about putting it down in writing. Whether you type it out, whether you write it out, having it written actually makes it more real. And then those other things that I mentioned, picking the benefits and then future pacing it, putting yourself out there and getting in the state and feeling as if you've already achieved it, those things will actually help draw you to that outcome. So good information from both Michelle and Chad.
And the benefits are, I don't think you said this specifically, but the benefits should be meaty. They should be something that propels you forward when your inclination is to stop. So if it is about cleaning out your basement and your garage, well, it gives me 1,200 more square feet of living space, and I can park both cars in the garage. And in Chicago, that's important. So whatever your benefits are, and they're your benefits, there's no right or wrong to that. If you set an outcome, whatever the benefits you'll receive from that need to be powerful enough for you to connect to in the worst times when you want to do that thing the least.
So true. So true. Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to move on to shared outcomes?
Sure.
I think that's could be a fun discussion.
Yes.
And what happens when we don't set shared outcomes, and what happens when we do set shared outcomes. So, Chad, you said you would share a little bit, so I'm just gonna turn it right back to you.
Yeah. So we talk about this in class often, and it's you know, how do we say it? Managing to like commitments versus just assumed expectations.
Yeah.
And that's really where the shared outcomes come into play. So if I don't have shared outcomes with whatever relationship I'm with, whatever person, whether it's my significant other, family member, friend, coworker, team at work, whatever, then I'm just assuming something is happening. We don't have any sort of agreement with. There's no commitment necessarily. I'm just assuming things, and now I'm expecting things that may or may not show up, and that may have never been communicated in any way, shape, or form, even though I think that they were. And just because I think it got communicated to another human being doesn't mean that it was actually heard or communicated to them in any way. So that's what, and we've done it elsewhere, as we have shared outcomes with High5 as well. And so for Ish and I, it was really important to sit down and decide, okay, what's really important to us? And what are we going to focus on for the year? And now we've got an outcome that we've agreed to. So when things show up, that when life does show up, and let's say there's some sort of financial thing, we can look at our financial shared outcome and say, okay, what's the right decision now? Instead of just assuming that each of us know what the right decision is.
Yeah, that's good, Chad. And that also ties into the whole idea of aim, right? What are you aiming for? So when you and Ish know what you're aiming for together, then you can set your individual outcomes, making sure that you're aiming at that shared outcome.
Exactly. So if I look at our shared outcomes and then our personal outcomes for the year, each of us have personal outcomes that go towards the shared outcomes, and each of us have personal outcomes that are just us. And then same thing when it comes down to our January outcomes. Some of them will tie back into the shared outcomes, and some just are our outcomes. And you mentioned those vision boards. So our shared outcomes are part of our vision boards. We both did them, and Ish actually has hung them in the living, like right, literally when you walk in the front door, they're on that wall. They are visible in a prominent place right now.
Front and center. That's where they should be, right? Because the whole idea of a vision board is to look at it, right. And again, it's that whole thing when you see those things that you really, really want in your life. That's when you can start to create that vision, hence the name, right? And start to feel the feelings of what would it be like to have that type of relationship, or that house, or that vacation, or to be on this beach here behind me, whatever it might be. The more energy you put into believing that, that's the energy that goes out into the universe, and it really does start to make things visible to you that will help attract those things to you in your life. It's not magic. You still got to do the work, and you'll start to observe those things around you that can help you achieve what you say is important to you.
Absolutely. And it's not even necessarily important that I'm consciously looking at this stuff. It's just, it's always there. So my subconscious is always watching it. So that's why, like I said, I've got all my outcomes printed, and they're right in front of my monitor where I sit to do my work every day. They're right there in front of me right now. And I don't necessarily look at them consciously, and they're always there.
Yeah.
My subconscious knows that they're there.
Yeah.
Way better than the way I used to do it. There's back when I was in a significant relationship, and I just thought my significant other should know exactly what I wanted and when I wanted it and all of that, and that didn't really work out that well. Poor guy didn't have a chance at understanding what it was that that I needed in our relationship and what it is that even we wanted together, because we never had those conversations. And yeah, I love the growth. And I still find those times when we haven't been 100% clear, right? And that's when we get to have the conversation about it. Clear as kind. So.
Absolutely. Because, of course,
Rumble.
everyone should see the world the way I see the world.
Right.
And just why would you see it any other way?
Right. Right. Doesn't she know? Doesn't he know that this is the way it should be? This is the way it is? Yeah. Kevin and I actually, at the beginning of each year, we set aside time specifically for us. We leave our house, we go somewhere else, like a hotel or someplace, spend a couple of days focused on our shared outcomes for the year. We do it like Chad ish. We did individually, and then we, based on those individual outcomes, focused on our shared outcomes together. And it's a whole new level of relationshiping, because we start off on the same playing field. You know, if we go, oftentimes we go into a relationship and, like you said, Barb, well, they should just know. I shouldn't have to tell. He should just know. And that's not fair to anybody. And if it's ever been done to you, you know, it's frustrating as hell when somebody has those expectations and they don't ever voice them, and yet you're being penalized or punished because you didn't behave in a certain way. And so it's an amazing, it's fun because it's time for just us, and we talk about, you know, all the things that we want to accomplish and what a great year it's going to be, and it puts us in the same spot, starting off in the same spot together, so that if we veer, we've got something to refocus on and come back to get us straight, I guess.
Well, and then you have someone, right? You've got the accountability, and to exactly what you just said, Michelle. You have a shared outcome, and somebody wants to not be in that shared outcome. We get to have a conversation, and we get to have it because that was the promise and the commitment that we made.
Absolutely.
And it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And how will it, you know, is that tracking toward that outcome? Like we did as a High5 team. We had a semi-annual retreat last week and set outcomes for the year, and made a decision that whenever we were doing something High5y, that we would ask ourselves or each other, is that tracking toward our outcome? It's to seek understanding and or offer clarity to somebody who may be off track.
Yep.
And a lot of people I know struggle with that because it feels like confrontation in a negative sense. It feels like fighting or questioning someone, and we don't want to deal. It's really the easiest way, because if you catch it, again, for lack of a better word, but if you catch it at the outset, then later down the line, you're not scrambling and backtracking and making up for things that have already happened and that you missed and that have gotten you way far away from that outcome.
And I think we brought, Barb said it and you said it, but and it's not just for couples, but that accountability piece. I'm big into Spartan. I'm doing a Spartan race. I've always been saying this. I'm doing a Spartan race, and they talk about accountability. So you have this goal, have somebody that's holding you accountable, even if they're not sharing your goal. One of your friends that's there on your sidelines that you know is going to cheer you on, have them holding you accountable. Join a Facebook group that you can express your struggles and that they'll hold you accountable. I mean, anytime anybody does something meaningful, a lot of times there's a mentor or somebody there to hold them accountable.
Yep. Yep, that accountability thing is huge, huge, huge.
Huge.
And we all need support.
Yeah.
And when we fall down, we don't need the person that's going to tell us all the reasons why they knew it was going to fail and that we would fail. We need the person to pick us up and confront in a very positive way and get us back motivated.
So Barb, you have a very special guest there at your house who set an outcome for a little contest that we had. He had a goal to win the outcome or to win the contest. And why don't you invite our special guest in and let's hear
Special
about
guest.
how he got to his goal.
Yeah, and to Barb's point, just that she just made, there he is. Just want to say something else. And it's about having people, and to Adam's accountability point, it's about having people who are not only going to lift you up. So Barb, you said it's not about having someone who's going to come back at us with all the things that they knew weren't going to work and what was going to go wrong and why it was, a bad choice or whatever it was. And you need people to support you. You also don't need people who are going to let you off the hook, who are going to say, oh, it's okay. Adam, you don't have to work out today. There's always tomorrow. Or, Michelle, have that cake today. You can get back on track tomorrow, whatever. You don't want those people either. While the intention is good, and generally that comes from a place of love, it's doing you a disservice.
And a lot of those people don't know what they don't know, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
pick your accountability partners.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
For those out there in High5 land that do not know this amazing gentleman, this is Lenny Howling. Flew in today from Calgary, Alberta, Canada with his beautiful wife, Krista, on vacation for a couple of days in San Diego and then heading over to Yuma. And he is the winner of our ambassador contest. And Lenny just took the ambassador contest by storm. And so will you share with us your outcome as it related to that? And what I would love for you to share, Lenny, is why you really got behind that contest, because I know it wasn't just for getting to spend time with me at some point.
Was my final outcome. Yes. First off, there was some talk about eating elephants earlier. Why would you guys eat an elephant? That's a beautiful animal. Don't eat elephants.
It's a process, Lenny.
It is a process.
So I did both the Joyride and the mini course. Found benefit in both of them. Personally with the Joyride, and then personally again with the mini course, and I'll explain that. I run my own company along with my wife, and we don't have employees. And when I got to the questionnaire, it asks, do I know the goals of my employees? Is there a high level of trust in our company? And if any of you know how we run our company along with our children, I suddenly realized that it had everything to do with how we run our home. And that was when things took off. I sent both the Joyride and the mini course invite to everybody I could, clients, friends, you name it. And of the respondents that came back with the same thing I thought with the mini course, that, Lenny, it was really beneficial, but I don't have employees, so I'm not really sure how it applies. I encourage them to think about, what about in your home? I had one that was a teacher. What about in your classroom? What about in your small groups? Anywhere you go, what would that question apply to? Do you know the goals of the people around you? So again, it was a huge reward for me. And then the other part was sending out to my clients. It created such an amazing conversation. And so again, continuing to get back on doing the Joyrides and still sending out the mini course. I encourage everyone to do it. It creates such great conversation with people, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, thank you for being a High5 ambassador. And And Lenny and I have been friends for a long time and match up on some stuff. And it was interesting though, because the early part of this contest, I think Lenny had other stuff going on, and then he did it for himself. And what he just said, he did it for himself, and then it was like, whoa, there's some value here. Let me go share it with others. And as we were talking about the shared outcomes, I was thinking about the joyride. And one of the best things to do when you're doing a 7-day joyride is do it with somebody else. So if you want to, and we talk about the joyride, right? If you have like a sucky situation in your life, and there's some area of our life that we would like to be better. And it can also be a great area of your life that you want to be better. So wherever you are, it's about what is it going to feel like to have more joy in that spot. And if you want to really start to take your conversations and communication with anybody in your life, be it your significant other or a friend or a team member, do a joyride together. And you can do it around personal stuff, you can do it around professional things, because now we're opening up the communication and we're starting to see and at least talk about and hear what the perspective is from each other. And just like everything, when we build community, much like High5, right, which is what this is, when we start to build community and we start to surround ourselves with people who want to play at that same level and support us, we can accomplish so much more. And I love that. In the mini course, you're absolutely right, Lenny. It works as well. The information works as well in your family unit as it does in your business unit. So yay, High5. Love it. So the other thing, so we talked about the journal and the benefit that has to keep us focused. And I think that for me, all of these things that we've talked about tonight, it's all about back to leadership as a practice. So if we set a goal and now it's like, what are the benefits? So we talked about what are the benefits, all those things. It's staying committed to that, because we are at the 28th, is that right, of January? And I'm betting that there are a few of you out there that set some resolutions, right, at the beginning of January, and you've already fallen off them. And likely the reason that is because your benefits weren't big enough. They weren't really about, why do I want this? Because as soon as it gets a little uncomfortable, then we go right back into default, into our programming, into our unconscious, and we don't stay focused on those things. We were interested in it. We thought it sounded really good, and it's like, I'd like it, and I wasn't committed. And trust me, I have those moments. It's like, oh, I really want to do this, and then life happens, right? And it's now, so even our big question tonight about what, how do we set goals? It's about, what do I really, 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 really want? Right? What's really important to me in my life? Because if I want all of this stuff, I'm likely not going to have any of it. So one of the things that we do now at High5 as a business is, what are we focused on this quarter? And let's have one or two things, because I love the next shiny object. And I frustrate people on occasion because I don't ever really, it's like, oh, well, that was fun. I worked on that, but we don't really have to keep doing that. Let me go to the next thing. And it is not a good way to run a business. Just telling you, it's not. And
Hummingbird.
Yes, that's my new nickname, Hummingbird. I'm flittering off to the next thing. Oh, Tony just
Hey, Tony.
Tony just a message for Lenny. And it's staying committed and following things through. So if you set a New Year's resolution, change it from a resolution into an outcome, put those benefits behind it, and just take the first step. And one of the things that I believe, it's just one day at a time, right? I just need to be committed to this, or I will be committed to this for today, right? So today. And I've talked about it a little bit before. 18 months ago, I said I wasn't going to eat flour and sugar, but I only had to make that choice for today. And each day I get up and I make that choice again. And now it's been 18 months. Who would have ever thought that when I first did that, there was no way and you know where that I wasn't going to eat flour and sugar for 18 months. And now it's not a big deal. And I had to have a really big why to do that. And that worked for me because I had a really, really, really big why. So
the outcomes are easy to come up with. We all know what we want or what we believe we want. The benefits take some deeper thought, some soul searching to make it really something you'll stay focused on.
Yeah, and a good thing, I read an article, some article or email, I think today, about when you find yourself looking for other things to do, and I'm gonna just call it numbing, right? So you're like going out and you're spending, again, I used Netflix earlier. Now all of a sudden I'm watching a whole lot more TV, or I'm on social media, or I'm looking for those things to numb me out so that I don't have to do what I said I was gonna do. But that's when we get to ask the question, it's like, what's really going on? Because there's usually a story behind the story.
Mm-hmm.
And until we get quiet, Adam, we were talking about our overactive brains here, until we get quiet and we put some noise canceling thoughts on our head, on our thoughts and our stories, we're not going to get there. So what's the story behind the story that's creating that discomfort or keeping us away from what we say that we want? And that's the work we get to do. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny, Barb. I'm sitting here looking at a little Post-it note that I put up on my desk. Gosh, I bet it's been there almost 2 years now, and it says, "Why do you want that?" And that's the question. I put it there to remind me to ask that question. It actually came out of one of the books that we read in one of our book club, and I put it there to remind me to ask my coaching clients that. And it really is to dig deeper, right? So why do you want this outcome? And to keep asking yourself the question, and why do you want that? And why do you want that? And after asking it about 4 or 5 times, you really get down to that meatiness, that meaningful stuff that Michelle was talking about. And that's the stuff that really will motivate you to move forward. So the surface level stuff, why do I want that? Well, because, my clothes, why do I want to have an outcome of being healthier? Because my clothes will fit. Okay. So why do you want that? Well, if my clothes fit, then, people will like me. Okay. Well, so why do you want that? Well, because if people like me, then I feel better about whatever it is, right? You start to truly chunk down into the real reasons of what's the essence of this, or what's at the base, the real values that you're seeking. That's the stuff then when you tap into it that really can motivate you to stay focused.
Yeah. I'll give you an example from my own personal life. I've been on a health journey, pretty significant health journey for some months now, and got off track, lost sight of my outcome because my benefits weren't meaty enough. So I sat down, and it's okay to revise. The outcome may not be the same. The benefits may not be the same. Just because you said it, it's not set in stone. It's not written in cement. You can change it whatever you need it to be, however you need it to look. But I sat down and I, in essence, had the same outcome, changed my benefits completely. And the benefits were, and this is what I mean by meaty and deep. I want to live a long, healthy life. And I want to have the energy and ability to play with my grandchildren. And I don't have any right now.
That connects here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have any right now, and there aren't any on the way as far as I know. And between us, we got 5 kids. So I'm thinking it's going to happen at some point. But that being said, I'm 51, so it's a little ways away, and I still want to be around when that happens. And I want to be able to actively participate in that life with those children and have an impact on them.
That's the stuff that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And it's leadership is a practice, joy is a practice. We get to show up for life every single day. And on Sunday, I went to a celebration of life of somebody who was a friend, lived here in San Diego, worked for one of our clients, and at age 65, and just really, really embraced life. And at 65, had a heart attack one day, and that was it. And it's just that reminder, we don't have the promise of tomorrow. What we have is right now, and the choice that we make now matters. It does matter. And the things that you want, go get them and play full out every day as you go get it, and really stay focused on that outcome, and don't get distracted by the stuff that doesn't matter.
The noise.
Easy, the noise. Get yourself some noise canceling headphones.
Thoughts.
Yeah, and I just got my first pair, and I was like super excited because I never experienced it before, and they really block out a lot of noise. They're little things in my life. Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
That's me.
As we wrap this up, I believe we have an offer going right now for 2020 vision sessions. Do we not?
We do.
We do.
Yeah.
Since we're with you, you should probably talk about it.
Yeah. So if you would like some help setting your vision, setting some powerful outcomes for 2020 and beyond, we currently are offering that for $39, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, which is ridiculously inexpensive. And that reminds me, Lenny, I think you signed up for one, so we need to schedule that once you get back from your time here in the warm states. But yeah, $39, and we'll spend some time together helping you figure out what your outcomes are, taking you through that, again, what I call our outcome formula, and understanding and digging into what are the benefits and what will it look like and sound like and feel like, and what is the first step. So really getting you clear on some of those outcomes that you really, really want in your life. So if you're looking for that kind of help, Chad just posted in the comments there. If you want, you can go and click on that link, or for whatever reason you don't have access to the link, then just reach out to any of us, Chad, Kevin, Michelle, Barb, any of us at high5leadership.com, and we'll be happy to get that link to you. Would love to have some of those 2020 vision sessions with you and help you get on that path to success.
Yeah,
that's only $39. Only it's
and back now, you can get a second 2020 vision session just for shipping and handling.
No, not really. Not really. And it's worth the price of admission, $39.
Shipping and handling is $39, by the way.
Sure. We have a High5 intensive, our 3-day intensive class coming up March 5th through the 7th here in San Diego. We have
March 6th through the 8th.
6th through the 8th here in San Diego. Yeah. That's why I surround myself with people, so I don't have to know that anymore. I'm ready to do this one. Michelle, when is Evolve?
When is Evolve?
Yeah.
Evolve is April is Saturday and Sunday, April 18th and 19th.
Look at you, aren't you good? April, all right. And that is for any graduate of an intensive program. And so when you are ready to go to your next level, it is definitely a next level. Actually, Lenny is a Evolve graduate. It's time for that as well.
Sure. Actually, we all are.
That's true.
Evolve 1, represent right here.
Because I'm the only non-graduate because I'm training. All right then. Anyway, we got lots of good stuff going on, and stay tuned. We are going to be doing a community 7-day joyride in March. That is going to be absolutely fantastic, and more good stuff coming from High5 leadership. We have very specific, very big outcomes set for this year, and we are 100% committed to it. And I thank you to everyone that's on here tonight, and thank you, Lenny, for being our special guest. I love my High5 team and my High5 family, and grateful. And you know what to do now, and that is to choose joy, because joy is a practice. All right, guys, have an incredible evening.
All right, love you guys. Thank you. Thanks.
Have a good night, you guys. Thank you.
Hugs.